Stacks and stacks of sticky notes litter desks and walls everywhere when someone hosts a sticky note brainstorming party. The process is fast, it's fun, it's motivating, and there's a flurry of ideas that finally get out of our head. But what do we do when the glow of the sticky note piles fades? When we're left with a somewhat jumbled mess and build a course once again gets pushed off for more doable tasks? I've never been a huge fan of sticky note parties because they are a lot of flash without the necessary depth to take our course from idea to launch. They set us up to be disappointed in our progress. And from a psychological standpoint, when our self-worth and our self-confidence take a beating, we tend to cut that thing off that's creating the issue. In our case, a course. I've seen this over and over. There's a quick burst of creativity instead of a strategic foundation that lasts over time. Now, that doesn't mean sticky notes aren't good. I could personally stock an entire school with my stash of sticky notes. I love them. It's all about channeling the energy, the motivation into a structured, strategic plan that sets you and your future students up for success. So today, let's talk about what happens after the flurry of sticky note ideas gets tacked to your walls. Let's talk about the strategy behind getting your course from idea to launch to impact.
Anyone can add a digital course to their business. So what sets the six-figure course creators apart? You're about to find out. Welcome to the Digital Course Creator Podcast with Dr. Moira, a longtime entrepreneur now using her PhD in psychology to help you go from sticky notes to sales worth celebrating.
Course mapping or course outlining is more than just a brainstorming session. It's the process of designing a learning experience for our students. It's about creating a clear path for our students to achieve a specific outcome. As a lifelong learner, I technically never left college, I've seen lots of courses. One course that I recently reviewed had solid concepts on the surface, but I noticed that students were consistently getting lost, feeling confused, sending messages that they didn't know what step to take next or what something meant. Whereas inside a different course, students were reaching out just as often, but it was to let the course creator know that the course had been easy to understand and the concepts made sense. Everything felt like it built on itself, and things that felt confusing in the past were now clicking. So which experience do you want for your students? Confused or things clicking? I know that I personally want things to click for my students. I don't have the time, the energy, and I don't think they do either to wade through confusing content. Without a structure in place, courses tend to kind of move forward without a clear map. They kind of feel disorganized, maybe a little overwhelming for students. When we don't have a clear structure, students tend to struggle to achieve the desired transformation that we've promised. We need our courses to have a logical flow. And if that stuff is happening, both the creators and the students are experiencing more frustration than necessary. So today I have 3 key concepts that will help you to not only build a map for your course that your students will love, but also kind of keep everything strategic for long-term impact. Now, at the heart of effective course mapping or course outlining lies instructional design. Instructional design is the science of creating effective learning experiences. That's it. It's about understanding how people learn and applying that knowledge to the design of your course. It ensures that every single student who joins your course has the best possible learning experience. Awesome, right? One of the first things to keep in mind here is that we want to focus on the learning outcomes. This is exactly what I do with my private clients and with anyone who participates in my 90-minute course outline workshop. We begin with the end in mind. If we just create a stack of sticky notes with ideas that we want to teach, the delivery is not going to be cohesive. It will, I promise you, create confusion. By starting with what we want our students to know, what we want them to be able to think, what we want them to be able to do at the end of the course, that provides a foundation for all of our content. With that course outcome set, then we get to break things down into the components that are necessary to make that outcome a reality. This means that we have to create chunks of information and arrange them in a logical order. Logical order means logical for someone who does not yet have a mastery of the content the way you do. So this is a place where you definitely have to get feedback, because when we set up our course outcome and then we say, oh, you need to know these things in this order, that's because we already know how to do it. And sometimes there are steps missing that we need to incorporate. Sometimes things would be better in a different order, so we have to rearrange them. So feedback is always going to be an important part of instructional design. And then we can start incorporating student engagement tools and opportunities so that our students don't just turn on a course video and immediately tune out and start scrolling on social media. You know, we've all been there at some point where you start something and then you pick up your phone and you're just kind of scrolling and doing other things. We have to build in ways to encourage them to apply what they're learning. After all, instructional design is all about helping our students to have a positive outcome. So, first of the key concepts for today in creating an effective course outline is to really lean into instructional design principles, really starting with the end in mind. Let's take one piece of what we just talked about with instructional design a bit further for our second concept here, and dig into the idea of creating learning objectives and a course structure that makes sense for our students. We have to think about the fact that students come to us in various states of knowledge. Some might have an inkling about what we're teaching, others might be completely new to the concepts. We have to be ready to serve them both and everyone in between. For example, when I purchased Amy Porterfield's Digital Course Academy, it wasn't because I didn't know how to create a course. I had already been creating courses for well over a decade. I was curious to see how she was tying in the marketing piece to what she was teaching. However, there are a lot of other students in Digital Course Academy who had never taken an online course before, and they were looking for a way to package their expertise, and they thought a digital course would be a great way to do this. They chose to do this as the digital course, so they said, you know what? I'm here to learn. I don't know anything about digital learning. I'm going to take DCA with Amy Porterfield. So we were kind of at two different ends of the spectrum, right? I kind of knew what was going on, and then there were hundreds upon hundreds of students who didn't know much about digital learning at all, and then everyone kind of in between on the spectrum. This is part of what makes objectives and structure so important. Without a clear objective, we don't know what to expect from a course, and without a clear structure, we don't know what pieces of the course will be applicable to us and which ones we might choose to skip over, even if it's just for now. So what do you do with this information? I think the easiest way to tackle it is to think about your course as a journey. Learning objectives are the milestones along the way, guiding students toward the final destination. When we don't have those milestones, those clear objectives, students can get lost. They don't know where to go next or what's leading to what. And that means they're not necessarily going to experience the success that we want for them or that they want for themselves. We don't get to make that impact. So each module within the course has to have a clear objective that aligns with the overall course objective or outcome, that end in mind. Each module needs to flow from one to the next in a way that is very much like building blocks. So I want you to think about a set of children's wood building blocks. There are the long rectangular blocks, there are small triangles, there are the cylinders, there are the bridges. So we want module 1 of our course to be that long rectangular block because it's going to hold up everything else. It will be a solid foundation. Whereas imagine if module 1 was this small triangle that went at the bottom. Building anything strong and detailed on top of that is likely going to crash at some point to the floor. We have to make sure we're using a logical flow. And when in doubt, think about, is this a triangle? Is it a big long rectangle? Is it a bridge? Is it a cylinder? Think about that concept of children's wood building blocks, because when we remember those and we remember playing with little blocks as kids, we know, especially as adults, we know what will work and what won't to build a taller structure, a strong structure. So think about your course in the same way. In building each layer, we can also think about what the layer looks like. Does it have a nice flow? Kind of like you want good flow in your kitchen, from your sink to the dishwasher, from the fridge to the stove to the oven. If we get turned around in the kitchen, that 20-minute meal prep takes 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Same concept is true of our course content. We want it to have a good flow so that we don't have to constantly double back to something earlier just to make sense of the ideas that are being presented. When we have to double back, it just takes so much more time and energy. So the structure of the course, the learning objectives are going to be key to whether students will make it through the course or get stuck and sign out. If we don't capture their interest with a well thought out game plan, there are plenty of other things to take the place of the course in their day. Just like the kiddo who tries to build the wooden blocks by putting the triangles at the bottom, quickly gets frustrated and finds something else to do. Guess what? Our students, without strong learning objectives in place to organize the course content and the structure in place to take them thoughtfully from one concept to the next, they'll also find something else to do. It may not be playing with a different toy, right? But it might be doing the laundry or cooking dinner or running the errands or going to their kids' ball game. So I think if we can all agree about the importance of instructional design principles and course outlines and learning objectives, how do we make this process easier? Well, there are a lot of techniques and tools that you can use to outline your course. As someone who loves paper but also loves tech, this is a really dangerous place to be in for me. There are tons of options, and it's really tempting to keep trying out new approaches without just choosing something and getting the thing done. While fancy tools can be tempting and expensive, the most important thing is to choose a method that works for you. We don't want you to stay stuck in course creation mode without ever completing a task. I am seeing a lot of people turn to AI for course outlines, but that can be problematic, as I'll talk about in just a minute in the I'm Thinking About segment. But overall, we have to make sure to keep our approach simple. If we choose a new process, an app, or software, we might actually spend more time learning how to use it than actually getting the work done. So we procrastinate. Just like when someone starts a new job, there's going to be a ramp up time for them to be fully on board and working, right? To do all the tasks just the right way. That's the same concept as when we choose a new approach for outlining. This leads me to offering the advice that you should just use what you know. Whether that's a Google Doc, a whiteboard on your wall, mapping tools like Miro, choose something that doesn't get in the way of you getting your ideas out and organized, and that can even be sticky notes. Just keep in mind your learning objectives, your outcomes, and things. The priority shouldn't be on how pretty your objectives and structure are. It should be on the fact that you have learning objectives that show a clear progression, clear connection to your course outcome. If there's a logical flow, that is always going to matter more than the prettiness of your objectives and course mapping. The key here is to focus on structure and flow. So now, if we're focusing on taking action, now it's time to actually take action on your course map or your course outline. It's time to move beyond the sticky notes. Start mapping out your course very strategically. You've likely heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. I want this podcast to be more than just 20-ish minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it ends up being, that you spend listening to and then you go on with your day. I want it to be a progress-driven learning experience that motivates and encourages you to take action right now. Remember, progress-driven learning is the key. Don't wait until you have the perfect outline. Start with a basic structure and refine as you go. Take action. Make progress. If you need a little bit of help deciding what to do right now, because it can feel overwhelming when you're doing something new and something that's potentially big, here are just a couple of things that you could think about. First up is to review your existing outline. If you already have an outline for your course, review it through the lens of instructional design. You could define your learning objectives. Maybe you're just getting started or you're getting ready to go through an overhaul and you just want to take a really good, crisp, clean look at your course. Define your learning objectives for each module and each lesson. Start there. And just choose a simple tool to use. Maybe that's the first step. Choose a simple tool to use to outline everything. Select a tool that will help you with your outlining process without adding any kind of unnecessary complexity. Okay, so choose one of these things or an idea of your own to implement this week. The key is to take action on the foundation and the strategy that holds up your course, that allows it to work. Now, I mentioned the concept of AI a little while ago, and I want to come back to something that I've been thinking about more and more. I am increasingly, I know I'm probably alone in this, I'm increasingly concerned about the trend of using AI to generate course outlines without putting a lot of good information into it. While AI can be really helpful with brainstorming, relying on it to create your entire course structure can be a really big mistake. Those $9 AI course creation programs frustrate me. As a course creator, as a designer, as an educator, I believe that students are buying you, your expertise, your experience, your unique perspective. When we use AI to do the heavy lifting, we are depriving our students of that. Plus, AI pulls from existing content, which raises those ethical and plagiarism concerns, IP concerns. Students can get AI-generated content for free. They can go into ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever AI tool they use, and say, hey, build me a course on concept XYZ. And it can do that. So they can get that for free. Why should they pay for your course? Well, they're paying for your unique approach, your experiences, your expertise. So if you are using AI as you're building your learning outcomes, your learning objectives, I just want you to be really careful to make sure that you are still including you in this process. Just my 2 cents on why I didn't share custom GPT with you for writing your course objectives and outlines. I want you to really put yourself into it. Now, I'd love to know, I'm always open to healthy debate. I'd love to know your take on this in the comments wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. I always love hearing from listeners and viewers to hear what resonates, what you're struggling with, what you're thinking about in terms of the content that we're talking about in these episodes. All right, that's it for that. Let's wrap up. Okay, so effective course mapping or outlining, that process of creating a pathway for our students to get them from where they are today to that course outcome that we've promised, is essential for creating impactful and successful online courses. I think you can agree. We need that for impact and success. By using instructional design principles, by defining clear learning objectives, and by using appropriate outlining techniques, we can create a course that delivers real results for our students. If you get started on your course map and consistently find yourself tweaking and adjusting just to get it right without ever checking off the task, I want you to check out episode 232, Stop Perfectionism from Killing Your Digital Course. And because we've all been there. And if you find yourself creating tons of pathways for your students so that they can essentially have a choose your own adventure course experience, I want you to simplify things for yourself and listen to episode 218, The Mistake Behind Customizing the Online Course Experience. And finally, if you are ready for one-on-one help to get your course done and ready to launch, I want you to send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook at Digital Course Creator Guide. As always, I want to also thank you so much for listening in. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your entrepreneur friends and colleagues who are building a digital course in their business. And be sure to subscribe to the Digital Course Creator Podcast wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. Until next time, happy creating.